This week on London Real, we have the former British World Championship boxer, Chris Eubank.
The first instinct of a man is to protect. Everyone respects someone who can fight. I'm fighting another man fairly. I've trained for this man. This man has trained for me. And a fighter is the hardest of them all because you are physically taking punishment and you cannot be subjective about it. My ancestors was in this one punch. Everything was in this punch.
They say that you were never the same fighter after that Watson fight.
The warrior does not judge, for his true assignment is to deliver evidence of superior behavior to the creator of all men.
You're a scary man, you know that.
I'm going to ask the viewers, perhaps you can call me what they call my father, English.
London Real presents Chris Eubank, English.
Only the person who takes risks is truly free.
London Real Academy. Build the best you.
When I go in and look at a person or a business, I want to hear him talk about his dreams.
Am I living in alignment to the way I want to be living? And there's a feeling you get if you're not.
A community of action-oriented people that will keep you accountable to your goals. Sign up now for a free 30-day trial. London Real Set Design by Timothy Olton.
Every once in a while, something really special happens at London Real. And that's when I find myself sitting across from a person and I stop myself and I think, this is epic. And I'll have to say this happened more than once during the 2.5 hours I spent with this week's guest, which is Mr. Christopher Eubank. He is a former professional boxer, held the title for 5 years, undefeated for 10 years. He is a British institution. He wore a monocle. He drove a Peterbilt 18-wheeler truck. He was known for his amazing antics, both inside and outside the ring, the posturing, the boxing to back it up, the style, the poise, the language, the articulation. You know, he has it all. I think the Eubank-Penn fight is considered one of the top 10 greatest boxing matches of all time. And anyone in Britain knows this man, controversial both in and outside of the ring. And I got to spend some time with him in the new studio, and we really had an epic meeting of minds. I didn't know where the interview was going to go at one point. At some points, I didn't know if he was quoting prose or talking to me. And yet, there must be at least 10 or 12 different passages that he quotes from heart during the show. And you'll see me just sit back and relax. And not less than 2 times will he get up and start shadow boxing and showing moves when he's in the studio. At one point, I thought he was going to punch me in the ribs and break my bones. And I was just going to take one for you London Reelers. That was my plan. And so that was what happened with Chris. I think you're going to love this episode. My entire crew was emotionally just really moved by Chris. I think a few guys cried, and we all think that this is right up there with Dorian Yates as far as one of our most epic pieces of work we've ever done here. So grateful to Chris for coming on, being so honest, and just so glad that we can show you this piece, snapshot of a man who just, they don't make them like him anymore. They don't make boxers like Chris anymore. And I just don't know if we're ever gonna have a gentleman like that, you know, grace this planet. So really lots of love going out to him. and I wish him all the best in everything that he does in the future, including his son's boxing career, the debate that we're going to put on with Stephen Fry following this episode. So I'm looking forward to all that, and I don't know what to say. I think I'm just going to leave you with Mr. Chris Eubank. Please come and join us over on the Academy. Everything is kicking off there. If you don't know London Real Academy, it's really kind of my life's work, and it's all about us as a tribe coming together and making every single one of us better. My personal goal is to get you to accomplish all of your goals this year. I've just offered a complete 30-day free trial. You get your money back if for any reason you don't like it. So there's really just no reason not to just go on the Academy and sign up as a member. Your life is definitely going to change. So I hope to see you over there. Send me a private message right away. And now I leave you with the one and only Mr. Christopher Eubank.
London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Chris Eubank, who was the British boxing world champion for over 5 years and undefeated in his first 10 years as a professional. Your epic world title contest against fellow Britons Nigel Benn and Michael Watson, combined with your eccentric personality, made you one of the most recognizable celebrities in the world in the 1990s. You have since been known for your anti-war activism, reality television, lately training your son Chris Eubank Jr. in boxing. Welcome to London Real.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here. You know, Chris, you were known back in the day for quoting Shakespeare, and one of your favorites, I believe, was, "The world is a stage and we are all actors." And I was wondering what you referred to when quoting Shakespeare and saying things like that. I know once you said, "My job isn't just a fight is a show, and that's entertainment." And I was just wondering how you viewed the whole art of what you did.
Well, okay, where that's concerned, what are you projecting? You know, if you project greatness, then you may appear to be great. In 1984, Adonis Torres, the first manager I had in New York when I started to learn how to box, he saw that my personality was always quite gentle, and I would always explain myself to people. And he said, "You should stop explaining yourself, especially when people ask you about, you know, how you're getting on for your coming contest." He saw that I was, that I would explain. I would always kind of be inside out. And he said, "Really, you should guard that." And he said, "When people ask you, you know, how you feel, tell them you feel great." I said, "Okay." Now, I suppose being brought up in the church, you know, as a Jamaican, you know, you kind of understand the concept of being honest. The church kind of teaches you that: be honest, be well behaved, be true, have integrity, all of these virtues. So when he told me to be great, it wasn't just saying it. It wouldn't be right to just say it. Especially if you were going to fight, then the idea is to also act it and show that you mean it. Now, in acting it, so how do you feel, Chris? It's right, I feel great. And you'd be like, "Yeah, I'm great." And you'd give the expression and you'd be true. True as in, well, if I feel great and I am great, then you'd act it. And so I began to act it when I was asked, "How do you feel?" And I suppose in taking on this spirit of being great, just a word, but what does the word mean? And how would you act if you should use this word? So I started to act this way. And I started to talk this way and project this way. And I was fierce this way. And yes, it was an act, but it was a real act. It was true to me. So I asked the question today. My peers now and the critics now say that I was great in my career. I don't think I was. I was just kind of acting, but I was being real. I was being true toward this term great. So today, I suppose, when I mentor and I speak to, the up-and-comings, I explain, what you want, you should project it. If you're shy, that's how people will treat you. People will not believe in you if you're shy. If you're out there performing, you have to be it. So it's acting in the truest form, in the truest sense of the word. Act great, and it's almost as though you self-prophesize what you're doing. People will treat you as you act. So again, I don't say that I am, but my peers, they say that I possibly was able to garner a perception of this word, of which I don't say that I am.
And is that a lesson that you picked up in Peckham, or was that one that you picked up in New York City when you moved to the South Bronx?
Yeah.
And do you think if you hadn't have made that move, that might not have clicked? And is there an Americanism in that, or was it something just that was said to you in the boxing?
Well, I mean, the question was, Shakespeare's quote, "The world is a stage and we are all actors." Well, it's true. Whether you know it or not, you're acting whether you actually know it or not. If you are naturally shy, to the onlooker, you're acting shy. So it could be an act, it could be pretend, or it could be real. Nevertheless, he's going to have that perception, or the person will have that perception of you, that you are shy. So, in the world of entertainment, you have to act bold. You have to be. It isn't about trying, it is about being. And then when you actually are being, then you will resonate. And at that point, I should actually say that manners then becomes, the most important of virtues. See, acting great without the manners, it's trouble. Because, again, I don't say that I'm great. But greatness without manners, it's foul. It doesn't work.
Did your manners have to catch up to some of your greatness, or did they always come hand in hand? Did you notice that early on?
I am not. This is not a term.
I'll use it.
Yeah, you
greatness.
can do, but I don't accept this term. Okay. I've met great men. I am not this. And it's not something which is, you can't pin it down. It's an everyday aspiration. You are what you do. So if you don't give somebody your time on one particular day, you are not great that particular day. So it's something you're always managing. Are you with me?
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, being a warrior is something I aspire to being. I was always able, apart from one particular fight, I was always able to act the correct warrior. Outside of the ring, most days I do well, but some days I fall. So it's a constant aspiration. I strive, I yearn to be a warrior, because when you are, people love you for it. They love your deed or your deeds, because it's an act. I was coming here today. I wanted to get here on time, and so I took the tube. There was a lady. She had a bag. a suitcase, and she took down the handle. She put the handle down and was about to pick it up, and I picked it up for her and brought it downstairs. She didn't ask, but this is how I've been brought up. 1, 2, as far as she's concerned, this is a great act. You know, again, talking about manners. What good is, you know, being or having so much wealth or so much currency in a particular regard without actually having manners? Because people will only say, well, he's successful, but, or, you know, the person is successful, but the person is foul. Manners maketh the man. It hasn't anything to do with the clothes. It hasn't anything to do with the person's achievements. It's to do with humility.
You mentioned warrior there. You said that the people that would come to see your fights were coming to watch warriors. What did you mean by that?
When you enter this cauldron, when you enter the arena to fight, you are no longer a personality. So it's not about, thank you very much. A warrior is going in there to actually put his life on the line. So the behavior of such a person, he should be projecting fortitude, integrity. He should be projecting resilience, a code, a seriousness, a darkness even. And when someone does that, it immediately resonates with an audience where, you know, people will compulsively have to watch you. It's like if you were looking at Mike Tyson in his pomp, 89, 90, 91, he embodied what a warrior was, which is why even today, you know, regardless of whatever convictions he's been convicted of, people will still gravitate towards him because he was true embodiment of a warrior. He let himself down in particular regard, yes, but what he embodied leaves him being the stuff of legend, you know, the real deal, the real thing. You know, a force of nature in his art, in his craft, in his chosen field.
So people aren't necessarily going to watch to see who is the winner. It's almost, there's something going on underneath where we're going to take an observation of someone who maybe we aren't, and just to see how a real warrior is and to feel that energy. Do you think that's what's really people are tuning in for? I think that's why I tune in.
Well, once in a while, particular characters come along and they embody this spirit, and it becomes what they refer to as box office. But sometimes you have individuals who are not this way, but they are very good at what they do. But they may not necessarily project the spirit of a warrior. You know, Nassim Hamed was a very, very good fighter. He embodied the spirit of a playful warrior. The ones that come along who have a serious edge to them are far more, I would say, engaging to the public because, you know, and if you talk about man, the first instinct of a man is to protect, that is to fight, and so it resonates with everyone. Everyone respects someone who can fight.
Women too.
Yes, I mean, you know, yes, of course. It's power. Power is attractive in in all forms to everyone. Please.
Can I ask you about your boyhood? You said one time, I was never a bad boy, I was a rude boy. I was born to love, but the environment was unkind. Was that in Peckham?
Well, that's growing up, period. I mean, in the inner city, you know, respect is what you want, and it's not given, you have to earn it. You know, and there are quite a few ways you can earn it. And I set about earning it in every which way I could. And the ways in which it could be earned is, one, being able to dance, two, being able to communicate. The most important is being able to fight. You bring it to another level once you become a man, because then it's doing it with measure. Being a professional.
Right.
Never doing it outside the ring. Never being unkind, because that is bullying.
Right.
So it goes to a real heavy degree. So yeah, dance, fight, speak. Where I came from, back in my day, to be able to shoplift, of which, again, I'm sorry, I was quite handy.
And could you dance as well?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because these were, also, the point of speaking, being able to speak, being able to communicate, you know, and I suppose, you know, today they say, as you kind of introduced me as a part eccentric, this is a wonderful term, something of which, you know, I understand. You know, in the inner city where I come from, being of Jamaican parentage, the synonym for that word, there is a synonym, and it's called dread. So he's an eccentric, that person is dread. Another term is cool, that person is cool. Or that person is different or unique. And as a youngster, I always wanted to be dread. I wanted to be like my father. My father was dread. So, you know, he could tell jokes. He was a storyteller, gambler, womanizer. You know, he was a rude boy of the old school. So much so that they gave him a nickname that I'd love to be able to. In fact, I'm going to ask the viewers, perhaps you can call me what they call my father. English.
English.
What a great name. Great name. Anyone who calls me English, I am coming and I'm with you for a cup of coffee. That's, I've won many accolades. But to win that accolade, to be called English, something of which my father, I mean, how did he get that? Let's see. He spoke a few words of English, proper English. So for example, he would say, good morning, how do you do? Delighted. And it seems to me, because he said those few words so perfectly well, like an Englishman, they gave him this name, English. And I, second generation now, coming up, embody all things which are English. I love English football. The Bulldog, you know, I love English. You know, everything for me, it resonates to me. I just get it. Okay.
And could you always speak when you were younger, or is that something you developed and you worked on?
I had to work on it. I would develop it really well in New York City, where I went to school. At 16 years old, I moved from London to New York City, and because of how incorrectly the New Yorkers spoke, it actually taught me how to correct my English. And listening to the BBC World Service, I just got it, you know. And I suppose, you know, they say that, you know, being clever is just really about how, or whether you have the ability to get to the top. And I kind of just got it. I speak the Queen's English, and it's a wonderful speak. It's dread.
How did you survive in New York City speaking like the Queen at 16 years old?
Well, I didn't have any friends. I don't know whether that was because I was really focused on boxing or whether it was because I spoke quite oddly as it would have sounded to them. But I was very insular in New York. I had messed around too much as a youngster here in the United Kingdom, and it was kind of like my second chance. And my father, I remember him saying to me, "You have one more chance, and this is it. You're going to go and live in New York City with your mother." My brothers were boxing, and as far as I was concerned, I wanted their respect. And so I thought, maybe if I can do it better than them, then maybe they will respect me. And the community would respect me, and people wouldn't ignore me. And everything I wanted, I actually earned. And it's not just the fighting. It's not just the winning. It's how you lose. It's also how you win. So it's manners. If you win and you're ill-mannered because you are bolshy and haughty and you think the world is, you're the big I am, then you'll never win the hearts of the people. So many people are, so many fighters, like my son today, they are chasing a symbol they give you when you victor. And it isn't the symbol that you're really after, but he doesn't know that yet. What you're really after is the hearts of the people, which you only win with manners and understanding that, if I'm bigger than you, then you will be looking up to me, and no one likes looking up to anyone. So if you are lower than the person you're speaking to, if you are humble, if you're just one of the guys with all your achievements, and then you can win their hearts. So it's about being emotionally intelligent. No one's really. However, you show me a really big guy. You show me a guy who thinks he's big, and I'll show you a very small man. You show me a man who's humble. I must tell you this story.
Tell me.
In 1996, one particular morning at the Dorchester, there was a knock on my door, and the lady's name was Cheryl. She was the High Commissioner to the South African Embassy. Nelson Mandela had come into the Dorchester the night before, and I asked her whether she could get me his autograph. And I gave her this beautiful piece of hard card, kind of like a chocolate brown, light chocolate brown. So I forgot about this. 8:15, there's a knock on the door, and this Cheryl lady handed me the card, and it said, "To an outstanding and dynamic sportsman, Mandela." True. I said, "Thank you so much." She said, "He will see you in Suite 710 in 15 minutes. I just came out of the shower. I put my clothes on, and I was nervous. Here's a man who, for me, not just for me, for mankind in the 20th century, was a beacon and a motivator and a figure of pure inspiration. At this time in 1996, there wasn't any of these camera phones, and I remember I had a Canon, one of these big Canon cameras, and I took it upstairs, got dressed, Oswald Boateng suit, orange shirt, orange tie, and I was pacing up and down, and I was really nervous. And I thought, no, be cool. So I sat down, and the door was open. I sat down, and about 2 minutes later, a figure of 6'2" walked through the door. And I always thought Nelson Mandela would be short. I don't know why. 6'2", he walked through the door and he says, "Oh, Chris, it's an honor to meet you." So, humility personified. How can you say that to me? I'm just a guy. I didn't do 27 years in prison for the rights of the human. So what I saw, and my response to him was, my response to the comment was, "That's why you're such a great man." So here's a man, a mountain comes walking into the room and gets beneath me in telling me that he is honored to meet me. So you see where manners maketh you a bigger man. Humility makes you a bigger man. So when people talk about ego, we all have it, and it's how mankind thrives and raises themselves, and it is a good thing so long as you have manners.
How do you teach that to a young man? How old is your son?
25, 23, 18.
How do you teach that to a young man?
How?
Especially a successful young man, a successful fighter.
In my view, how do you teach it? By example.
The way Mandela taught you.
I wrote a quote of which I'm almost ashamed of. It was a fantastic quote before I heard "The Pale Blue Dot," written by Carl Sagan. I thought, now this is a really good quote. And it says like this, I wrote this: "If I am humble, then please don't walk tall." I have 19 World Championship wins, and if I am humble, then you don't have any right. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. You do not have the right to walk tall if I am humble. Okay. I then read, my wife sent me "The Pale Blue Dot." Shocked, stunned, and amazed that it was written in 1994. I read this and it grabbed me. And I read it again and it grabbed me tighter and held me tighter. And it was only a few weeks afterwards where I remembered that I had written this quote, which I thought was a great quote, that if I am humble, then please don't walk tall, and felt ashamed. Who do you think you are to say that, talking of yourself as though you are something because you've got 19 World Championship wins? So it means I've got to tell you the pale blue dot.
So from what I understand of the pale blue dot, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Voyager space probe was getting near the end of the solar system, and I believe it was Carl Sagan that was petitioning that it made one last photo, which was to turn 180 degrees and take a picture of Earth. And a lot of the scientists at NASA thought, there's no point in doing this, it won't be visible, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it took months and months to convince them to do it. And they finally took that picture with one of the two cameras, and you can see it, and it literally shows our planet as a tiny, tiny pale blue dot. And I hope you tell me more. I haven't read the book, but I've read through the book. And I believe that is a metaphor for what we're all about on this earth. If we look at ourselves as nothing more than this pale blue dot. Am I understanding what Carl was trying to say? Is the picture itself enough to convey it to another human? Just to say, look at this?
Well, it is, but then one has to then engage their intellect. So you have to engage your intelligence. You know, who are you? I mean, I watched this Stephen Fry denigrate God.
Are you a religious man?
This is a very dangerous question. I believe in nature. Now,
God means different things to different people.
if you believe that if you plant a seed and it grows, then you believe in nature. And nature and God is the same thing.
Okay.
Rather than explain all of that, keep it very simple.
Okay.
If you believe in nature, you believe in God. If you believe in nature, you believe in the universe. So going back to your point of saying, well, looking back at the earth, the pale blue dot, does it give enough of an impression? It only does if you think, if you philosophize. So, you know, in explaining it, and thank you for helping explain the pale blue dot. Thank you for that, because it's quite difficult to put it in perspective. So this Stephen Fry says, you know, God is a stupid God and a maniac.
Yeah, I think someone asked Stephen Fry about God, and I know he says he is an atheist, and he was kind of speaking off the cuff, but you know, I think he said bone cancer in children. He said, how dare you create a world in which there is such misery? It's not our fault. It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? And just to finish off, he said, it's perfectly apparent that he is monstrous, utterly monstrous, deserves no respect whatsoever. The moment you banish him, life becomes simpler, purer, cleaner, more worth living, in my opinion. Harsh words.
Really? Really? Okay. You know, now I have been trying to debate him for the last 3 months, or since, not quite since he made the statement. I would very much like to debate him, and apparently he's one of the most intelligent men. Let me take that back. He's supposedly one of the better intellects. Intelligence and intellect, or being intellectual, are two different things. Intelligence. First of all, you purport to be a gentleman. Well, why would you say something that would infer that my mother was stupid? I have to fight for all the mothers and fathers and the people who live with God in an omnipresent type way every day and gets them through their lives. I have to take on this debate for them. It's wrong that he should say that. Think of his particular challenges. Should you really be leaning on your own understanding? And keep in mind, this is a man we admire. I was a huge fan. In fact, I still am. But an apology and contrition should be shown. You can't infer that we are stupid. This is not fair, and this is not being a gentleman. So I believe this show goes out to some 40 million viewers. This man I'd like to debate.
I think we should do it.
In his home, here. Cambridge is where he actually went to school. I'll debate him anywhere. This was unkind. This is a type of bullying. And I've never been able to abide bullies, which is why I was suspended from so many schools, so many times and expelled for protecting people who were being bullied by people who were more intellectually inept or physically bigger, stronger. I always took the side of the smaller man, whether in mind or in body. And it's an intellectual or intelligence debate. You know, there's nothing physical going on here, but I believe it's something that I cannot fail to win.
I think a lot of people would like to see that debate. So if they're listening, I think they should, you know, send a tweet out to Stephen Fry, you, and ourselves at London Real TV, and let's set it up. We can do it here in about a month's time. So we'll let the public decide. But I think that's fascinating. I do think that he should be accountable for what he said, or at least defend it and expand upon it.
Yes.
And so I think it should be a debate. I think just to throw it out there and leave it alone, yeah, I don't think that's the most responsible thing. So.
Well, I'm sure I'm not the only person saying, listen, I would like to debate you. I mean, come on. The Queen believes in God for here, the United Kingdom. Huh?
Right.
On the American dollar bill, in God we trust.
Right.
Right. Who are you? As clever as he may be, we're going to go back now to the pale blue dot. As clever as he may be, I'm not afraid of bullies, if indeed he is one. Certainly if he's not, he should explain his point of understanding. The pale blue dot. When I read this, I had to commit it to memory because I wanted it to be part of me. When you commit something to memory, it becomes part of your own entity. You start walking a particular way, you start talking a particular way. It makes you a better person. It makes you humble. It makes you look into yourself. It makes you want to better yourself. It makes you want to be kinder. It makes you want to be more responsible. It makes you want to actually display more manners. So the way I would like to set it up, you know what, before I say that, let me make this particular point. However intelligent, however much information he may have amassed about the earth, oil, economics, electricity, the constellation, math, history, however much he may have amassed in terms of information, how much can you possibly know? To speak like this, you can't lean on your own understanding, and the elders tell us one shouldn't lean on their own understanding. After all, what do you know? You're just one human. But let's say he had amassed more information than anyone, in this, in history. Let's say he had amassed as much as anyone, as much as you could go onto a computer and find out. The pale blue dot makes reference to someone like him because whatever you have amassed is only about this particular dot. And there are hundreds of thousands of millions of these dots, planets. So, when I'm putting across this wonderful philosophy that I so wish, I so hope, and I so imagine that Carl Sagan tried to get across to the public. If politicians or the people who have control of our pale blue dot, the earth, if they could hear this, it would push them and motivate them to looking after the planet, the people on the planet. It forces you. Let me start and go through it. So, I usually always say, in fact, if you imagine you're looking at a star, now imagine you are sitting on that star or standing on that star. That star may be 6 billion miles away, and you're looking back across the cosmos, and you're looking at the pale blue dot, and again, the hundreds of thousands of millions of other dots around it. So it would start and it would say, look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us.
Right. And I think...
On it, can I?
Yeah, please,
I'll go
please,
through.
of course.
It's going to take a few minutes.
Yeah.
So it says, look again at that dot.